But let me take you now. The EU Observer Mission is holding a press conference.
Let me say that the election day was a success, both for the people of Ghana and for the election administration. Polling was organized in an efficient and transparent manner and took place in a peaceful atmosphere. The vast majority of our European Union EU observers positively assessed the voting process and the election environment generally. Voting was well conducted, party agents were present at all polling stations, and verification of voters was implemented. Counting was transparent in the presence of party agents who signed the results and received copies, which is critical transparency measure. Ghanaians voted freely, and while there were isolated violent incidents, both on election day and during the campaign, show my full solidarity to the victims and to their families. Fears about violence and vigilantism fortunately didn't materialize. They were minor, they were isolated incidents, some of them even tragic ones. The Electoral Commission completed technical preparations for the elections in a timely manner. Nevertheless, the way the Electoral Commission leadership is appointed is not inclusive and does not build public confidence. All 7 Electoral Commission members are selected by the President of Ghana for an indefinite tenure and without consultation or consensus with the opposition. This is a fact. On a positive note, we consider that there are not unreasonable restrictions on the right to vote. And we can assess that the registration process was inclusive and concluded with no serious challenges to the number of registered voters nationwide or in regions. The presidential race was a unique contest, featuring among the 12 candidates a president and a former president. And for the first time, and this is very important, we have a woman running as vice presidential candidate on behalf of one of the major parties. However, our mission has also noted that women are significantly underrepresented in Ghanaian politics. The campaign was highly competitive and often confrontational, and was dominated by the president and opposition leader. Due to COVID-19, large rallies were replaced by smaller outdoor events and frequent door-to-door visits. With the exception of a few isolated violent incidents that I spoke about them before, and I want to express again my solidarity with the victims and their families, campaigning and voting were peaceful. However, constantly increased costs of running campaign are a matter of concern. Several of our interlocutors raised concerns about the monetization of politics in Ghana. Unregulated campaign finance, the reportedly common practice of vote buying, and the prevalent misuse of state resources for electioneering purposes created an uneven playing field. It would benefit future elections in Ghana if these were addressed. The media environment in Ghana is vibrant and diverse, but also polarized. During the observation period, the media operated freely and managed to provide voters with sufficient information on both the NPP and NDC and their flag bearers. However, state-owned media favored the ruling party and its presidential candidate. Mostly I'm speaking on TV. Through extensive coverage of news and live broadcasts and inauguration and projects launched by the President and other government representatives. Our mission also monitored social media, which, as we know, is playing an increasingly important role in elections across the world. The 2 main parties deployed social media teams who posted content in a coordinated manner across a range of platforms to promote their presidential candidate and discredit the rival. Sadly, misinformation spread by both sides risk confusing voters and interfering in the formation of electoral opinions. Last but not least, domestic observers contributed to the transparency and credibility of this process. The Codeo network with support from the Center for Democratic Development and also the Institute for Democratic Governance and the WANEP, deployed observers. Domestic observation is organized, credible, and well perceived by the stakeholders. So my address is over, and I am open to you.
So here is how we go about the questions. Please introduce yourself by name and the media outlet who you work for. And we will take 2 questions at a time. So we have 2 microphones in the room. I kindly ask you basically to use those microphones. Please, yes.
Briefing. I'm Louise de West with AFP News Agency. I have 3 questions, but they're very short, so I'll make it brief. First question, do you have any indications that you can give on the turnout? Second question, police said that 5 people have died and 19 were injured during election and post-electoral violence. Does that match what you have, what you've observed? Are there more incidents that you have recorded? And third question, the opposition party has just finished a press conference calling on its supporters to mass up. Is that a worry? Thank you.
Like it follows,
Final question was
yeah. Well, I'll begin by the last question. We are not a political body. We are an independent team, an independent observation mission. Even we are independent from the actual head of mission of the European Union in Accra, as well from the European Parliament. So we are an observer mission. What any party does, it belongs to politics. And we are here just to observe the elections and to provide recommendations in our final report. So this is one. The second thing, it is, I said twice, that very tragic events happened and people died. Up to our knowledge, in all the procedure, there was something like 61 in accordance with Security Services report that, I mean, you could call them as violent incidents. Some kind of violence that, of course, they are not the same. But when we see the election, it's like looking to the horizon. The horizon is not 10 meters, it's the full horizon. So we are just saying that, in general, the elections were in a peaceful way with tragic incidents. The tragic incidents were not the general outcome. The general outcome was a peaceful approach, a peaceful action, and elections going, let me say, in a correct way. This is our approach, and violent incidents were minor, and let me say, you could establish counting little, I mean, in not such amount, they were not so much. I mean, there were some, and I repeat, horizon is great, and we cannot just look to a part of it. It is the general outcome of the elections, and the general outcome, it was in a peaceful way.
Maybe I can ask for the turnout question.
Yes, do it, please, Gabriel.
And the question is on turnout. What we can say that also what chief observers just said, that on election day, we saw that voters were participating in elections very freely and in large numbers. But in terms of the specific figures, we, as a mission, we are not projecting the results, or we are not announcing results, neither turnout. This is something that has to be done by the Electoral Commission. So we are waiting for the EC official results and also official turnout.
Next question, please. Do we have any more questions? Yes, Joy.
Yes, my name is Manuel Kranting. I work with JoyNews. The Electoral Commission in Ghana had given itself a 24-hour timeline to declare the results, which obviously has been revived, and we're yet to hear the results now. News coming through says that the supporters of the main opposition party, the NDC, have massed up at the offices of the Electoral Commission, piling pressure on it to declare the results. I want to pick your reactions to this particular development and how you think it's going to impact on the processes as you've just mentioned now. Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Mensah told us that they wished to present the results the next day at 5 o'clock. The reality is not that they are late. The point is that they have to be, and they will be. In accordance with the legal frame of Ghana, there is no deadline. And so being late, I think, is not the issue. This is first point. The second one, we are an electoral commission. We are an electoral observation mission, excuse me. And we are not here to establish who is winning or not winning. Please don't confuse yourself and don't confuse. I mean, we are not a court. We are just observing how the elections were, and this is capital important, that we were not just in the day of the elections. Because an election process is not a line of persons waiting for under the sun and a ballot box and someone getting inside the box a ballot paper. The electoral procedure begins 1 month before, and it is all the way even after. That's why we came here on 31st of October and not the day before of the elections. And what we are doing here is neither giving a decision, because we are not a court, we are an observation mission, and just proposing what could be better for the next elections in our recommendations, as we did before in 2016. So please, neither we are interested in the results, it's up to the Ghanaian people, neither we are thinking that some delay that is in accordance with the Constitution of Ghana, because there is no definite deadline, is going to affect what we have seen. We have seen what we have seen, and we are producing the results of our presence at the election process. Alexander, do you want to say something? Thank you. Yes?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Harriet Nate. I host Diplomatic Affairs on Pan-African Television. I'd like to know, you were in the country in 2016. It's 2020, 4 years ago. Based on the recommendations you gave after your observation, have we done anything better? Have we improved on our elections so far?
We don't have opinions. We are dealing on facts. And I'll tell you that in the recommendations that we presented after the 2016 elections, I was not here, we presented 20 recommendations. From them, five were partly implemented. So, some of them that we think they are important, for example, the control of funding of political parties during the election, to say something, the election of the Electoral Commission, for example, it is already included in these 20 recommendations, were not changed. So what we do is to tell and to make recommendations in order to get better elections in the future. And we do it in Ghana, no, we do it everywhere. But there is something that is capitally important. I am Spanish. And as you can imagine, we are very near to countries like Venezuela. Venezuelan authorities asked and invited the European Union to attend the elections in Venezuela. We didn't. Even Josep Borrell, that he is the vice president, he's Spanish. I am Spanish. But we don't go to places where we are invited if there is not a democratic situation in the country, minimum democratic conditions. COVID is affecting everyone. It's a pandemic that is affecting everyone. European Parliament is closed, but the European Union is here because We have respect, and we consider that Ghana is a democracy. We don't go to Venezuela, we came to Ghana.
Okay, so we take 2 more questions.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Isaac Ohene from Class Media Group. The officer just mentioned of the COVID. He just mentioned of the COVID, and I want to find out from him. You came here to observe the election. Looking at the pandemic period that we are in, do you think the EC has officially go with the protocols that need to go, that were put in place towards the election? I know you've been to most of the regions for an observation based on this period. Has the EC done enough for the voters to go through the procedure? Well,
thank you. I want to do a short introduction. This mission is a team, it's not me. And I have recognition for all the members of the team, and that's why I think that Alexander will answer.
So when it comes to COVID and electoral commissions and measures taken by the electoral commission to enforce the COVID protocol, we as a mission noted that also during the voter registration exercise, which took place before the mission was deployed, the electoral commission put in place quite strict COVID-19 prevention measures, where people were asked to wash their hands, keep the social distancing, and wear the face masks. Equally, for election day, the EC advertised the policy of no mask, no vote. And on top of it, we are aware that EC reduced the number of voters per polling station and consequently increased the number of polling stations to minimize the crowds on election day. And on top of it, they also introduced a so-called COVID-19 ambassador, meaning at every single polling station, there was a specific polling station staff with a role to enforce the COVID protocols. Our observations suggest that these protocol measures, COVID-19 protocol was largely respected at the polling stations, but of course there were also cases when approach of the polling staff to enforcing the COVID protocol was more relaxed, and I think given the circumstances, this is quite understandable. But overall, we can commend the Electoral Commission for trying their best to ensure that COVID-19 would not have a negative effect on election day.
And we're watching this unfold with the EU Observer Mission, and the role they play, Winston, is critical in our elections. It is important to hear what your view is on how, I guess, the elections had gone.
Exactly, Evans, and they've been talking about how they came in October, made recommendations, but they also talked about how the process has been, the fact that COVID-19 may have impacted the campaigning season. However, that notwithstanding, the fact that we've been able to vote peacefully. I think the most important thing now is the declaration of results, which all of us are waiting for officially from the Electoral Commission. And so that's what we're waiting for.
Absolutely, and we'll keep a close eye